I'm 2 years late, but I finally got to play Final Fantasy XVI after being curious about it for a while. After all, I've been a Final Fantasy fan since I was like 16, and this is the first time a Final Fantasy game has left me going, what actually is a Final Fantasy game? And is this one it? Welcome back, Classic Crew, to another journal on my discoveries of games. This one, Final Fantasy XVI, not a review, but more of my emotional response to a game and a franchise I've loved for so long. And in fact, I hesitate to even say love anymore, because after playing FF16, I was like, what is Final Fantasy? And do I really love this IP and this franchise? I've played it for decades, and I usually stay on top of everything, but I started really reflecting, FF16 is not a game I loved. I'll just start off with that. And I started reflecting on all the other Final Fantasy games. I was like, which one did I love? Did I love 15? Not really. It didn't really leave much on me. 13, I dropped off and cared nothing about it. I didn't even get to the halfway point of 13. 12 was okay. I finished it, but it didn't leave anything. I'm leaving out the online games because they're so different. So 11 and 14 don't count. 10 was like, it was okay. I didn't really care that much. 9 was okay. 8 was okay. 7 I loved. 6 I loved. 5 I never really finished. 4 I loved. So I'm like, okay, so I loved 3 out of these 16 main line games. Is it fair to say I really love this franchise? I don't think it is. I don't think I can say that anymore. And so this is probably why it took me 2 years to finally play the new Final Fantasy installment. And I heard that there was a bit of drama around it, so I wasn't like in a hurry to play it or anything. I was busy with my FF7. FF7 remake, love it, played it twice, still love it. So FF16, when I went into this, I thought the combat would be more akin to Final Fantasy VII, which is what I love. I really enjoy that. I knew that the game was way more steeped in the fantasy setting, thinking like Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones. I saw that it was more serious, but I don't think I was ready for just how serious and mature this game was. So those were my expectations going in. I hadn't really looked much into trailers or anything like that. Like, I don't get hyped over Square Enix games anymore because I don't like waiting 10 years for these games to come out. So I don't even bother getting into the hype, because you're just going to wait forever and then most likely be disappointed when it finally comes out. Finally getting into it, and I have to say, I didn't just play through the story and that's it. I went through this game on the hardest mode available to you at the start, which is adventure mode or something, not the easy mode. I did all the side quests, I did all of the side hunts, and I should also state that this is going to be full of spoilers, so if you don't want this game spoiled in any kind of way, maybe go play the game and come back and listen to my thoughts afterwards. So I got the most powerful weapon you can get. I crafted all the best gear you can get, and I beat the game. So I pretty much tasted everything this game had to offer. And what shocked me and what I really enjoyed, I don't know if I could say really enjoyed. Let's start with what shocked me. What shocked me is the first time an F-bomb was dropped in my Final Fantasy. I was like, oh, all right. It's a mature game. We got to drop some F-bombs. I was caught completely unaware. The second thing is I was completely caught unaware by how hot the men are in this game. I'm a straight man, but I got to say the men in this game are very attractive. First of all, the voice, whoever voices Sid, and I saw him, he sounds better than he looks, unfortunately. But the character of Sid and that voice is just freaking, that voice could talk to me to sleep every night. Clive, just his armor, his look, his voice, everything about Clive just screams like hotness, and just all of his entourage and the men. You don't see Clive naked once, but twice. And you see his booty, and you see almost everything at one point. Also, that's another thing that caught me in my mature Final Fantasy, is having a full-out, highly suggestive sex scene in there. So if they were going for that kind of more adult theme thing, they hit it. I don't know how I feel about it. It's not what I associate to Final Fantasy. But I do like that they recognize their fan base has aged, are all probably over 30 years old for the most part. And so I'm okay with it. The other thing that surprised me in a good way were the summons. I knew that this game was summon heavy, summon focus. I mean, it's right on the titles or on the key art. You've got Clive and Ifrit. So I knew that summons played a big part in this game, but I was not ready for the spectacle and the visual cinematic porn of these summons fighting each other. Just throughout the whole game, at no point was I like, oh, this is boring to watch. I'm just, the music and the fighting and of these summons, just, I was like, that's a wet dream for any Final Fantasy fan who grew up looking at these summons. Did they even show up in the NES version? I don't know if they showed up in the 8-bit world. They did, because Bahamut was in the first game. I remember that much. But yeah, these summons have never looked better. It was almost over the top in some points, like the fight with Bahamut against Bahamut. That fight is ridiculous, just ridiculous. It is so over the top of just one-upping. It's on crazy, like, shonen anime level of ridiculousness. But I was grinning the whole way, so I don't care. I invite it. Bring it on. The next thing that surprised me was the heavy cinematic. Like, I was actually quite disappointed at first when I started the game. I'm like, all right, let's see what's going on. Okay, we're getting introduced to this world. All right, we got some summons. And literally, I think I pushed my controller button like once, I'm exaggerating, a few times in the first hour of the game. Not many more times in the next like second, third hour. I'm just, holy heck, is this a game or is this a visual novel? Spoilers, it's pretty much a visual novel. There's more cinematics in this game than any other Final Fantasy game I've ever played. And it really wants to tell its story, but it really struggles to give you a game to play, which is unfortunate because the combat is pretty fun to some extent. And so, you know, the story just, it's beautiful, it's very well presented, but it's just way too over the top sometimes. It's just way too much cinematic. I think they could have found a better balance. And the other thing that surprised me is the combat, because like I said, I was expecting FF7 combat, which I love, and I think that is my favorite form of action-oriented combat in RPGs. And what I found here was something a lot more akin to Devil May Cry, where I was like, whoa, this has some like Devil May Cry DNA into it. And I don't know if I'm remembering right, but I think somebody told me that one of the combat designers of Devil May Cry, or known for Devil May Cry, worked on this game. If that is true, I totally get it. And because I got that feeling before someone even told me that. Just the switching between your combat styles, the way I'm inputting my combat felt very like Devil May Cry light, because it doesn't quite go to that level. So now where it actually missed, those were the kind of the highlights of the game where I'm like, whoa, what is just going on? Like just the stuff that really shocked me. But where this game completely missed for me and where I felt disappointed, funny enough, let's talk about the combat, because yeah, the combat felt like Devil May Cry, was not like my favorite FF7 combat, but after playing it for over 50 hours, the combat became so repetitive. And I want to argue, oh, maybe it's my fault because I didn't really experiment with the depth of the mechanics. Like you have a total of, I think, 6 or 7 Acons, each with 2 to 3 powers that you can equip at any given time, and then you can cycle through all 3. So you can customize your combat how you want. But I've never really felt like I needed to after I found the combo that worked for me. And the one that I kind of went through the whole game with was my base. One was I was using the Phoenix power because I love teleporting. So I was using the Phoenix power with the uppercut because it's quick, it recharges quick. And then I had the big Phoenix blast, which pretty much it's a huge AoE that clears mobs. I love that one. So I had that one. Then I had Garuda as my second because that one just eats through stagger gauge like crazy. So I had the one that like you do like 100 whooshes at someone, and then the other one where you spin into a tornado. I just thought those were two that, you know, move pretty good for Garuda. And then the third one that I stuck with were 2 of Titan's attack. Because one, when I learned how to block, it's really satisfying to block and then punch the person back. And then there's the AoE because I gotta have my AoE in circulation. So pretty much all of the combat was, if there was a mob, I'd go in the middle and I explode my Phoenix all over. And then the other thing was, if there was a boss, it was just whittle him down until he's in stagger, grab his face, smash him to the ground, unleash a combo or 2. Finally, when he's properly staggered, limit break, repeat. And you got to do that like series maybe 4 times. I also use this equipment which lets me precision dodge. I think it's the equipment that's slow motion and everything, because I've been using it and it was just so like it was effective, so I didn't want to really mess with it. Like at one point I did bring out Bahamut just to try like the Mega Flare. I'm like, oh, I don't like this. You gotta like charge up your attack and it takes time. I was just really happy with my base 3 icon powers, and I just kept doing that all the way till the end of the game. I didn't even really bother with Odin or Shiva's attacks. Like I just looked at what they were, their strength level. I'm like, honestly, I don't see that being better than what I'm doing. Even though in hindsight, I think it's one of Shiva's attack is like the best damaging one. So, my combat can be optimized, as it always can. I'm just saying, I found a formula that worked for me, and I didn't really have much incentive to stray away from it. So it became very repetitive and very unsatisfying, even with the cool music of the fights and all that. I'm just like, oh, here we go again. Oh, it's a big boss. Dodge, dodge, do, and just like repeat the combo. It didn't really feel very satisfying, which is weird. Like, I'm gonna be devil's advocate on myself here. Like, I recognize that it was pretty repetitive in the old Final Fantasies when it was turn-based, where you just select the menus. But it just the fights felt more different. Like, oh, I gotta use fire spells here. Oh, I gotta use holy or healing things against zombies. Like, there used to be a differentiation, a strategy you had to go into fights. And in FF16, it doesn't feel like you need a strategy for anything. You just, I heard some bosses, some enemies might be a little weaker to like some icons more than others. I didn't even feel the need to experiment with that because my stuff just worked everywhere. Now, I did go into New Game Plus. I got into the harder difficulty, Final Fantasy, and I expect maybe that's where the combat, you go more into that depth. But that's a whole other 50 hour of grinding potentially, and I'm not ready to sign up for that. So the other thing which frustrated the heck out of me is the crafting system for your weapons and gear. Like, what a freaking miss, Square Enix. You've got access to a blacksmith early on in the game, and you can craft things. And all over the world, you have these like little materials that you're collecting. Everything coming out of these chests are collectibles, are crafting materials. Even like the big monsters that you fight off the beaten path drop rare materials for crafting, but it's all completely useless because the game almost gives you nothing to craft. I wasn't even excited when I found a chest because I would just add another one to my hundreds of already crafting materials. I constantly had the most upgraded weapons. You've only got 3 pieces of equipment: your sword, your belt, and your gloves or something. That's all you can build. And there's no recipes to find out in the wild except maybe like 1 or 2. It's just a huge miss. I've seen what Square Enix can do in other Final Fantasy games, other Square Enix RPGs. This is by far the worst that they've ever had their crafting. And I don't understand why. It's like the whole world and the game was built around the crafting, and then they just didn't do anything with it. That I really did not like. When I went to New Game Plus, I noticed it seems like crafting has more depth to it. So maybe it's, redeemed in the Final Fantasy challenge mode of the game. But why wouldn't that be in the base game? No excuse. They did a bad job. And the equipment is just very uninspired as well. Just 3 slots. And then you've got your, your 3, accessories, so you have a total of 6 slots, and you can only equip Clive. You can't equip your characters, your side characters, or your party with anything. It just feels very limited. And for a game whose whole message is about the power of friendship, and they don't even wait until the end of the game at this point. Like, we all know Square Enix RPGs is always, you have to eventually fight a god with the power of friendship. Like, that's always what it ends up being. And this game just embraces it. They're like, you know what? At one point, yeah, we're going to go mess up God, and we're going to do it with the power of friendship. I'm like, oh, okay, that's very on the nose. And even at the end, even out of nowhere, they actually call it out. They're like, this is your fantasy, and it is our final fantasy. I'm like, oh, they actually said the words in the game. Anyways, where was I? I feel very strongly about crafting and equipments. Oh yeah, the accessories. Whew, went on a rant there. You get 3, and they're most of the accessories in this game are just cools down your abilities of choice, none of which I use. So 90% of my accessories were useless. And lastly, and I already touched on it, was the cinematics. It just takes so long. At the end, when I was doing all the side quests, even the main story, I'm just like, oh, I don't want to listen. I'm trying to skip, and some dialogue is just not skippable. I didn't want to skip the whole cinematic because I didn't want to just sometimes you skip a cinematic and then you're in the middle of this huge fight. You're like, how the heck did I get here? So I didn't want any of that, but it was just so slow And maybe that's just my brain being too easily like distracted these days. With all that said, going back to my original question, like, what is Final Fantasy? What is it to me? What is it to people? I don't really have an answer, because I think Final Fantasy is almost like a buffet of JRPG where they are constantly trying something new, which I like. And it gives the chance for everybody to have a different entry point into this IP. But I think about, like, if I was wearing the creative direction hat and they said, make a Final Fantasy game, where would I even start? Like, what is the core DNA that you keep? Someone who loves Final Fantasy XIV, are they going to love all the other FF games? Probably not. Me who loves FF7, I'm not finding the same love in the other games. So I know that there's a huge group of people that love FF9, another group that really loves FF10. Like, you have the Final Fantasy that you love. And so it's very hard to please to a Final Fantasy audience, where the common theme, I would say, maybe it is just fight God. I don't know. Have a interesting story, I guess. But that's the DNA of an RPG. I can't say that's like the unique DNA of Final Fantasy. To me, like Final Fantasy, when I used to play, when I used to love it, like FF4 was my first one, followed by 6, followed by 7. It was about this sense of adventure, about adventure and fun. That's what, to me, Final Fantasy has always been about. A fun adventure with a group of lovable characters and an interesting story. And, when I think about Final Fantasy XVI, the fun is kind of sacrificed for the sake of realism. Like, where I was having the most fun in this game was really when it was either Sid and Clive just kind of like, riffing off each other and just having it fun, or when Clive's uncle shows up in the story. He's just so lovable, so fun, and his scenes are just great. Like, there's a part where you're questing with him for a while. I was like, oh, I love this. This is my Final Fantasy. This feels good. I can see, I think, why this game, or any Final Fantasy game, is always hard to land. And you always hear Square Enix kind of complaining, oh, we didn't hit our projections, our numbers. It's like, well, what are you expecting? Who are you catering this to? I even remember FF15 when that came out. Who was that for? Like, what game is that similar to? It's not similar to any game. So every installment is so different. I don't know how they can project or even guess how a Final Fantasy game will do. I will say I am happy I actually experienced the game. It's not every game that I feel incentivized to actually do all of the side content. I feel I was able to do it in this game because it was accessible, but it wasn't as rewarding as I had hoped it would be. And that's a little disappointing. So, there's still some stuff to do. I still have New Game Plus with Final Fantasy mode that I'm not really incentivized to do. There's still the DLC, which I don't know if I want to go back, because I'm not really that attached to these characters. I don't, and this world, I don't care that much about the world. It's a very dark, depressing world. So I think Final Fantasy 16 might be on the back burner. Maybe I'll come back one day after the emotions have cooled down and I feel like I want to dip back into that world. But I'm just happy leaving it as it is. I did the side stuff. I'm happy. I got my story. I got some cool cinematics as Ifrit. And I got to see some really, really cool summon battles. So we'll leave it at that. Let me know what you think if you've played Final Fantasy 16 and what your history with this franchise is. If you did love FF16, which one did you love prior in the franchise? And if you did not like FF16, again, which one is your favorite in the franchise? So I can kind of get a sense of where you're coming from as you're approaching this franchise. So that's my thoughts on FF16. I'll see you on the next journal. And until next time, keep it classy.